Welcome to the Insurance Producers Podcast, where we bring you the top personalized producers, insurance agents, and industry partners, giving you at least 3 takeaways to 10x your production and build your multi-million-dollar revenue books. So sit back, relax, and become inspired by the success stories and strategies of the world's top insurance minds. Let's roll. All right. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Cyrus Jaffery, Insurance Producers Podcast host. I'm with my good friend now. It was my first time meeting him, but I feel like I know him because I listen to him all the time. Billy Wagner, man, what's happening?
Thank you so much for having me, Cyrus. It's an honor to get to spend some time with you. And I'm very inspired by your story, and I really look forward to adding value to the listeners today as much as we can. So excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. I think this is going to be one of my favorite episodes, man, because I feel like we talked for a little bit beforehand. I feel like we talked the same language. It's kind of just defining, okay, how do you work smarter, not harder, let's just say. And I feel like a lot of producers want to obviously do that, work smarter, not harder. So with that being said, Billy, maybe just go back, man, for a lot of people that don't know you, which is crazy. If they don't know you, they should know you. But if they don't, just go back a little bit, Billy. Just maybe tell us just quickly, 30 seconds, a minute, backstory, how you got into the insurance industry and what you're up to right now.
Yeah, thank you. So I started actually in the restaurant business out of college and did that for 10 years and was looking to, do the entrepreneurial thing and started searching insurance and so in 2006, a couple of different roads I went down, but mostly 2006, I started a scratch agency. Just me by myself, hired one employee, a couple of months after I started. And I've been at this for, 18 years. It's one of the best businesses out there. Absolutely love it. It's been a journey for sure, but like I said, I've been at it 18 years and kind of worked myself through every single job and role and position in the agency, to where tremendous team, and a great agency now, but it was definitely a lot of long, hard days to get us there. But yeah, love the industry, love the business, love the people that are in it, and just glad that I found it.
That's awesome. So Billy, 2006, 2024, 18 years. What's the, from one employee, what's the employee count look like? What's the agency kind of look like?
Yeah, so we have a service outsourced through our model, but we have 16 employees now. And most of those folks are on the front end sales side. We have something called the A team, which is basically our administrative team. Most of my team is too young to realize the reference to the A Team television show, but that's the kind of the reference of it. But they're basically doing a lot of the administrative folks. We built like a ton of processes and systems around efficiency. And then, the rest of the team, besides an executive assistant, the rest of the team are sales agents. So we've got, 10 sales agents that are operating with us now.
That's awesome. 10 sales agents. I think that a lot of this conversation is going to be geared a little bit towards the 10 sales agents. And so how was the idea always to have a larger agency, 16 employees, blah, 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 or was it, you had no idea back in 2006 what you were kind of getting into? You just wanted to pay the bills for at that time.
Yeah. I mean, when I started, I left a 6-figure job and, that first year we made nothing. So my wife was very afraid of this jump, this entrepreneurial leap that I took. She was like, what are you doing? And, my North Star has been autonomy from the very beginning. And I figured that this industry would allow me to get there. It would take a ton of work, a lot of development in people and processes and systems, but it has the ability to create autonomy. And that's what I started out on the journey doing. And I knew that I was trying to work myself out of a job. So everything that I did, and even to this day, I don't do anything without teaching. So if I'm doing something, I am teaching somebody else. And so that's what I did kind of when I started. My first employee, kind of rode shotgun with me. They did kind of the administrative role. And I really built a process around 4 or 5 different roles in the agency. And I move people through those positions. So they start out as client concierge, then they become a junior producer. and then they become an agent. And so we've made being an agent in our office almost like a law partner. We don't just hire agents. We develop them through a process and a system, and they have to validate themselves based on certain metrics and criteria to hit each different level. And so, people are happiest when they're growing. So we provided this atmosphere for them to have that growth, and it's transformed our business. We didn't do that, it wasn't insightful till about 4 or 5 years ago. We're like, okay, we're going to build a system for the development of people.
That's awesome. Billy, is there anything you could share? I'm one of those guys, man, that I got to dig a little bit deeper on a lot of things you're saying, because there's so much meat and potatoes in there, man. So what's that like? Like, what's that process like when you're going from like maybe a junior insurance person to a senior? Like, what are you doing with them? They have to watch so many people close. They have to be so many on the phone call. Like, what does that look like? Can you share? I know there's some secret sauce in there that you may not want to share, but I know you share everything. So anything you could share with the audience, man, that are maybe sitting at 10 agents or 3 agents or 4 agents, man, I like that. I want to kind of build that. What would that look like?
And I would just tell you, just to the people that are listening to this right now, if I was starting the agency over and it was just me, this is how I would do it. I would do it exactly the way that we're doing it now. And so even if I was hiring somebody that was like, okay, they have the potential to be a sales agent, right? I would still start them as, first of all, anyone that comes on board with us has a 90-day probationary period. And generally during that 90-day probationary period, they're running the role that we call client concierge. And so that position is like an admin role where they're kind of a glorified receptionist. We teach them how to answer the phone. We teach them how to set up new clients. We teach them how to do some preliminary quoting activity and quoting work. So what it does, it introduces them to the business. They start understanding what conversations sound like, what they look like. They're also doing the role that gets bogged down in the agency, so that they're also helping the agency so that we can have enough scale to develop them. And so in that 90 days, they're learning that client concierge position, and they're also starting to learn how to quote. And so that thing that they're doing is leading them to the next position that we're going to put them in, which is junior producer. And we don't have any time frame. It's when they master the skill, they get to move to that next position. And then when they're a junior producer, they are working underneath an agent. So that agent is mentoring them, and they are giving them work through their pipeline to develop on. And so they might be doing auto quoting and flood quoting and umbrella quoting, and learning how to produce proposals and create basically that sales process without talking to people as much on the phone doing the sales process, but they're learning and they're listening. And they have to do a certain level of production in that junior producer role, but they also have to pass secret shop. So we secret shop our agents. They have to develop 5 relationships with centers of influence. So until they develop 5 relationships with a lender or a realtor, I need to know that they can do that. So they cannot become an agent until they validate that they can build relationships. And they have to be able to cross-sell. So they have to know all the lines of business that they are. So there's all these validation points, are they sending out 4 quotes to a new client? So these validation points, when they hit those, then they can move themselves into that agent role. But sometimes it takes 18 months or 24 months for them to get through that pathway. And we've built it where it's a tier where somebody in our agency could be a junior producer forever, and they can still earn good money, but they don't earn the highest level until they become an agent.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the secret shopping thing. So, and I'm sure this is by no means, I say this all the time, I don't just wake up one day and come up with all these ideas that we are implementing. You always listen a book or other people that you listen to, a podcast, other people in our industry, man. There's so many amazing people, man, that are doing great things. I would assume that you didn't just wake up one day and be I'm going to do this secret shopping thing, right? So what was the idea behind that? Because I love that idea.
Yeah, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. What I realized pretty early on is that the experience is everything, right? It's what is the journey of a client experience look like? If it was perfect, how would I map it out? How would I create it? What would I do? And I literally wrote that journey out. And what I realize is what we're doing as an industry that's incorrect is we're not spending enough time developing people and teaching them the right way, the way that to be a noble profession, to protect people, to educate them, to make sure they understand, not selling things, but helping them buy it and understanding it. Right. So I realized we weren't spending enough time training them. We weren't giving them the right words and how to equip them to sound professional, to build rapport. And I did all those things. I built out the scripts and I built out the training. We do 12 weeks of training with new hires. Mm-hmm. And I did all of that. And then I realized about 50% of the time it was happening when I started listening to phone calls and trying to validate things. And everyone was saying, yeah. And we even record them in the training and we practice and practice and practice. And still 50% of the time I was actually very disappointed in those results. And I was like, how do we get it to that next level? And then I was like, all right, we're going to secret shop them. And so I couldn't find a company to do it. First of all, I had to like train them how to do it, but I finally found a company and they do 2 a month for us, and they're very good. They ask about 18 questions and it allows us to teach and develop. And it's the circle of trust. And like, we did a meeting already this morning. We do a monthly meeting and it's like, when you get one, it's in front of everybody. So if you screw it up, there's accountability to it. And if you do a great job, there's also an incentive. We actually pay them like they wrote the policy if they do a great job on it and they hit the 6 main criterias. But what it does is it gives you a platform to develop, teach, and validate. And it gives you an example that's real life. And you know what the great thing too is that our team thinks that every call is a secret shop. So imagine they're actually building rapport. They're cross-selling every time. They're doing the right steps that we want to make sure that are happening. That's
awesome. So I'm curious, when you're making some of these changes, when did you make this change of going from like maybe a person who was maybe just answering phone calls, taking some information, to junior insurance person, and then to senior? When did you start doing that?
That's been so I did it, but I didn't realize I was doing it, right? It was like, we need to bring on a new person. We're teaching them this role and then that role. And I was like, I need to define this, because what I wasn't doing is building a pathway, lighting a pathway for them that says, here's what winning looks like in this role. And here's how you can win. And this is what you need to do. Because I think, one of my favorite quotes is Brene Brown, clear as kind, right? So clearly laying out exactly what they should be doing to be successful. And so I was doing a lot of the steps, but it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I actually put it in writing. And I was like, here's your road. This is where you start. You do 90 days. We make a huge deal when we onboard people. We spend 12 weeks training them. You're going to do this client concierge role. Maybe in part of that, in 90 days, you might start working that client concierge position. Because here's the thing, like a lot of people are like, I don't have time to train somebody 12 weeks, but we built it in a way that they will learn something every week and they will have independent time to practice it. So they're actually pulling work off of the agency while they're learning it, but they don't stop training and developing for 12 weeks. And then they have a mentor that they're working with for up to 2 years, that they're working with that person. So my team is a ninja. Like if you called them, you'd be like, oh my gosh, they know how to say things. They know what to say, how to say it. They know how to protect people. They know how to build rapport, but we invested a ton of time and energy to make that happen. And then a lot of people aren't willing to do it, or they don't have the capacity to.
Man, I love that quote. Clear is kind. Because I'm with you, man. Like, so we just implemented like 6 months ago, a lot of new things as me and you were talking, because of some stuff happening in the agency. And I was like, man, we got to go to square zero. Like, what's our process look like? Like, we had a process, like the thing is with a lot of insurance people, and just same thing with me, like agency owners, like you're writing a lot of business, things are going really well, like everybody's happy and blah, blah, blah. You don't really think about like what you're really doing, because especially with me, first 4 or 5 years in the industry, man, we're just rocking and rolling. We're just writing as much business as we possibly can. We're not thinking about systems, processes, automation, how to make people's life easy, because we're just like, just go write business. Right now, we just got to make it, right? Yeah. There comes a time where you gotta do what Billy is doing, man. Like, you have to do what Billy is doing, because it's extremely difficult to scale that way. Because I did this about 6 months, probably 8 months ago. And we sat down, we said, okay, what's our sales process? I was like, what's your sales process, Brett? Oh, this is my sales process. What's your sales process, Phil? Oh, mine is this. What's yours? We have about 9 agents. We had somewhere around there, kind of close to you.
everybody was like kind of doing the same thing, but not really. I'm like, that's broken, man. Like we have to have the same process. Like when somebody calls in, they have to get the same experience, because when I pass on a lead, they expect Cyrus Jaffery process. Like they expect to be the same person. So you're a mini me almost. So we literally did this 6 to 8 months ago. We went back, we said, okay, guys, here's exactly our process from start to finish. The first question, the second question, the third question. Here is exactly when they say this, you say this. So now, like if you, just like you said, when you call the office, man, everybody's on the same page. Like they know what to say. You know, we haven't done the secret shopping thing, which I really love. That's one thing I'm going to implement from you, because it would be really cool to see like if they're really doing it and they'll be on their toes at all times. But one of the changes we made also was 25 CTEs, which is for us is per day. It's 25 call, text, email. So you got to talk to 25 different people a day. There is no like, that's a non-negotiable. We have 3 non-negotiables. That's one of them. Like that's just one of those things that, man, we had so much pushback on that, because a lot of our leads are like, we work with a lot of lenders, real estate people, some relationships we have. So a lot of our leads come to our office. So it's like their leads, like they're very, very warm leads. They don't have to make cold calls. So they were very like spoiled. So to put a process in place to say, hey, listen, you're doing 10 CTEs because 10 leads you're getting. Now you got to do 25. The hardest thing we've ever done. We got so much pushback from it. But now looking back, we looked at the results. We looked at them and say, listen, you did this in July, in May and June. In April, you did not. Your production gone up 30%. You made 30% more money because you followed the script of what we told you. You made more calls. At the end of the day, the more people you talk to, the more money you're going to make. Like the math completely makes sense. So I love that, man, because we're going through that process right now. So was it, now it's a process. Now all of your agents are doing it. But when you were implementing it, was it hard for some of your agents? Were you getting some pushback on some of that stuff?
Absolutely. And I can tell you that, you know, I have a process for rolling out a process, because, you know, it's like one thing where you think, okay, I'm going to teach you this. We all agree that it makes sense. You know, we had a meeting today, literally a meeting, and, you know, we're measuring different things with our KPIs. And what I found was you have to go one by one and go, hey, John, how are you doing it right now? And are you following this process that we talked about? Like, and it wasn't until like I put them on the spot and then let them, like, because if you talk to everybody, you don't know who's listening and who's taking it in and actually going to implement it. And then you have things like the secret shop that validates it. You listen to phone calls, you spot check, and you look in AMS and look to see, are they sending out 4 quotes, you know, like, but I agree with you, Cyrus, of like, you don't need to measure a million things. We measure like 3 or 4 things and we don't confuse them. It's very clear. I want these things to happen. You know, like my team, they're required to have a cup of coffee once a week with a center of influence. And so we've got 9 of them doing that coffee meeting once a week. That's a non-negotiable. If you miss one, you better do 2 the next week. We have a certain amount of phone calls that they're required to answer. So like these metrics, they're not complicated. You have to continually repeat yourself. We don't probably tell our team enough. So you give them great training. You have the process written out and defined. You have a video that shows exactly what they're supposed to do. You listen to them doing it. You record them during the training process. And then in real life, you've got to validate it in some way. And that's kind of how that secret shop just pulls it all together.
Yeah. And I guarantee you blew up 3-4 years ago when you implement these things. And I'm sure you were great I think you were good before, probably, like the book Good to Great. Like there are certain things that agencies have to do. And I feel like, honestly, man, like 70% of agents are like right there. All they need to do is like a couple of new things to kind of change some things, man. And then you basically open up this new window where like the greats are hanging out. And like everybody's average to good kind of knocking, but they're like, I don't want to put in the work. But if they just put in a couple of more things, man, like you're right there. And that's the beauty of our industry is you could be great, man. Anybody can be great. Like all you need is willpower, man, to just get through there.
And I think it's also like I believe in the mantra of like constant and never ending improvement, right? So I'm always trying to push the envelope of like, where are we going and what's in our way, what's broken. And one of the things that we did change as far as the process goes, is we do a leadership meeting and we basically like workshop one thing every month. So like when we rolled out Secret Shop, we're like, all right, we're going to roll out Secret Shop. Like, what do we need to have? Who's the vendor we're going to use? And we broke it all the way down. And then we built like a way to grade them. And then we built like and then we did a training class. So once a month we do a training on something, and that training then validates the workshop that we did. We teach them, and then the Secret Shop validates whether they're actually doing it. Right. Yeah. So you walk it through that process and it's what I would say to somebody listening that's trying to develop is just do one thing a month. Like, hey, I'm going to fix, what happens when a web lead comes in? What is that experience like? I'm going to fix that this month. What should it be? Like, should we call them right away? Like, how many follow-ups should we do? What's the proposal that we're sending? And you just work through one thing a month, and then you train your team on that one thing, and you just one step closer to the goal line every single month. And that's really what's worked well for us, is that we're constantly trying to push one thing. And, that's been really, really helpful.
Yeah. Have you read that book, Gary Keller, The One Thing, by chance?
I have not read that, but I actually do Gary Keller's one sheet with my entire team, which is an amazing thing. Yeah. It's like one sheet of paper on all their goals, their aspirations, what they're trying to do. I love Gary Keller.
That's
awesome
cool.
guy.
That's cool, man. I want to talk about, man, because one of our models is like culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's like on our wall. It's on our T-shirts. It's all about culture. And I know you have done an incredible job, man, with culture. Maybe anything that, what's that culture look like in your office, man? Maybe if you could share with us, and what are some things that you have done to implement the culture that you have right now?
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with like having a really defined process on bringing on great people. And so we have a 21-step hiring process. You get great people in, great people want to be around other great people. But I think once you have a team, there's definitely some things like you have to, especially the way the market is right now, you have to control the narrative. If you let the market control the narrative, you're going to have burnout, you're going to have frustration, you're going to have like, I can't believe this business is so hard. So we just try to do some things to control the narrative. One of the things that we did, like every year we have a theme, and it puts their focus and mindset. So last year it was develop 100 relationships. This year it is do 3,000 impacts. And so we have pushed our team that they have to do one impact before they leave every day. So our theme and motto is make an impact today, meaning that you don't leave for the day until some impact is made. Well, what does that do? It dents the universe. It makes those people feel great about what they're doing. And we came up with 100 ways that they do that. And when they do 3,000 impacts, we're all going to go on a cruise together with their families. So that's what our goal is this year. We'll do like nonprofit days where we go, and I'm actually super passionate about doing extreme makeovers of nonprofits. I've done 2 so far. All the speaking and the books and all that stuff raises money for those nonprofits. And so my team's involved in that. We set up our own foundation where we give money. So it's a lot of little things that puts their mind on what the right thing is. Right. And so, and I think the culture really is like reading the moment, and trying to make sure, like we have my executive assistant, her job is to be a wow weaver. And so whenever we can kind of add wows or do some of those impacts, she's helping to make those things happen. We'll do happy hours every once in a while. So the great thing about our team is that they want to hang out with each other when they're not at work. And that's a hard thing to create. And it took a long time. And then when somebody doesn't fit, it's very obvious. They're like, oh, this person doesn't fit. So it's a very close team, and I guess it's intentional with the leadership team. I've got 3 leaders, and they're all different skill sets, are constantly trying to develop people and make sure that it's a great place to be, and make sure it's a place that they're talking to other people about how great it is. Like that's kind of my North Star, is like, I want them telling everyone else why it's different here.
Love that. Yeah, it's pretty simple, man. I feel like people kind of overcomplicate the whole culture thing. I mean, it's just like culture doesn't have to be anything sexy. Culture doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You don't have to do a lot of big things for your people. But you do have to care, man. I think I could tell, like from you, like I feel like one of the leadership traits that I talk about all the time is people that ask me, hey, what's your leadership trait? It's just caring. I think when the other person knows like you'll run into a wall for them, that builds culture a lot faster because they know they'll do things that you want them to do that they might not want to do, which right now, like nobody wants to do 25 CTEs, like nobody, because they're like, dude, like we're killing it. Like we're doing this and this. I'm like, but that's not what I said. I said, I need you to do 25 CTEs. Like I didn't ask you, ask you for your opinion. I told you to do 25 CTEs and you're going to do 25 CTEs. Like I know you're not going to like it, but if you really wanted to love what you do, you should sell ice cream because everybody's happy and you're happy as well. They're going to have to do some things. And when someone asks me, our culture is 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And everybody's like, what does that mean? We have a meeting every morning at 9 a.m. and every day at 1 p.m. It's just 10 minutes because we have people all over the country virtual. That became our culture. It started with COVID 4 years ago. And now like it's 9 a.m. quick meeting. And then it's a COT, a circle of trust is what we call it. Somebody has to give us something positive after every meeting. That became culture for us. Like, so culture can be like one book a month that we read. Like that's culture for us, you know, like kind of what you said. Like, I don't think culture has to be anything spectacular. You can make culture whatever you want. But I think it's the people for sure, man. You got the right people, man. Things are going to work just fine. So I love that, man. I watch your stuff. I know you take your people to a lot of places as well, man. That's really cool to get everybody together, you know, different countries and having all that stuff. How has that been, man? I've been meaning to ask you that. I mean, I'm sure that's spectacular to spend some time with them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also like, again, giving them something as a goal to kind of achieve. And it's not like a guarantee, you know, and we don't always go big, right? So like we went to Puerto Rico last year. This year, we're going to go to Tampa. And then, you know, next year we're going to do a cruise, right? If they hit the goal that we do. And so, you know, like I said, I think that's part of like how close we got is like we spend some time outside and like, it's a little bit dangerous to be honest, because my team is so close that if they ever wanted to coup me, like they're all so close, right? Like there's a little bit of danger in that, but I think it's the right way. I think that's like when they look forward to going to work, it's mostly because of the people that they work with and the people, you know, that they care about each other, you know, and I always tell them like our focus is the client experience. It's on relationships and it's on excellence. Like how you do one thing is how you do everything, but it's also, it's on each other. I want them caring about each other more than anything, like looking out for each other, helping each other. Like if someone's not there, they cover them, like they take a vacation and they come back to no work. Like we care about each other. And I think that's contagious. You know, that's what I think makes it work.
Well, I mean, it tells other people as well to say, if you want to hire good talent, man, it all starts with the people that are there already. Because when people come to us, we have a lunch where everybody sits down and meet with this person. And if we don't have a good team, the good vibes and camaraderie and all that, people can tell. Like, I don't want to be a part of that organization. There's some animosity, you know, all that stuff. So I'm sure that's probably why, man, you're getting a lot of good talent is because they come in, they check out your culture. They're like, man, I want to be a part of that. I know your social media, you present that really well. So, you know, a lot of people that look at you and say, hey, man, people that are like maybe looking for jobs, man, they want to work for Billy Wagner. They want to work for that organization, man, because they're like, man, that sounds kind of fun. Almost like a work hard, play hard mentality, but you do it at the very, very high level with exceptional customer service. So I applaud you for that, man. Keep rocking on that. That's been really fun. And for us, man, you've been in the business for a long time. For me coming in, you know, I feel like a lot of us that are newer in, you know, 4 or 5 years in or whatever, or people that are 10 years in, you always want to find people and you always like want to duplicate them almost, right? Because I say this all the time. I'm like, you don't have to go invent the wheel, man. Like Billy Wagner is doing it. You talk to Billy, he'll tell you. Now execution is going to be big. Now Billy knows how to execute. If you can execute, go for it. You can do the same things that Billy is doing. I mean, it's by no means a secret. But dude, the execution part is obviously the most difficult part, man, which you have done. So we all look up to you, man. A lot of us and a lot of people in the industry do. You didn't even know me until maybe you saw that the Insurance Guys podcast. But now that we're having conversations and stuff, we're getting to know you. But I've looked up to you, man. Some of the stuff that you've done, I have done as well. You might not even know, but you put on a real estate event for a lot of your real estate partners. I stole that idea, not because you don't even know I stole that idea. I put on events for real estate because of you. So a lot of people,
awesome.
We look up to you, man. So you've done a really good job.
That's awesome. And I think we don't have to start at the bottom of the mountain, right? In this industry, like I already have the bruises and the scars from being punched in the face, and I know what works, what doesn't work. And, I am willing to help anybody that needs it. And, I think that's something that's great about our organization is there's a lot of folks that are willing to share. And I want to be that example to help people because people helped me. And, and I think that we can do a lot more of that as an industry. And I think things like this podcast, that's helping other people. I love doing these because it's doing things at scale. And I'm very big about like my time and all that. So like this allows, me to try to help and add value at scale. And we can do a lot more of that in our industry. And, there's people that like, to go to on certain subjects and topics. And I think that's great that what you're doing with the podcast.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah. This podcast, like you said, man, it's the fastest way to impact, 500-600 people per episode or whatever that listen to it. Has been really cool for us to, a lot of producers, younger producers that, we get a lot of calls and texts and say, hey, that was really cool. No better impact, man, than that, cause like a lot of people don't know what they're doing, man, when they're newer, especially in the last 2-3 years, man. A lot of people are trying to get out of the business. And I would tell you, man, like you said, you got all these bruises for the last 18 years, man. If you can just hang on 5 years in this business, man, it's one of the best decisions you'll ever make in your life. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think we as leaders too, we have to do a better job of like showing that, right? Like, what does it look like? Like, let's get through these 5 years together. But once you do, there's no turning back. But what does it look like at year 1, year 2, and where should you be? And how are you progressing? And I think that's part of our secret sauce too, is that we have intentionally tried to have growth for them in our process, right? So, going back to like having those different roles and stages, it's designed to give them growth where they're like, now I've learned that I'm better now for that. And we're constantly looking outside of the industry for growth, and we're bringing in people because people are happiest when they're growing. And so like, I think for our industry, we can do more of like, if you think about like, are you growing in where you currently are, and make sure you're getting into an environment where you are growing and improving as a person, and that's what I promise anybody that comes to work for me, is that you're going to be a different person in 2 years. And if you hang on for 5, just like you said, you'll never do anything else.
It is 100%. But I would say, man, it is even 3-4 years ago, man, it's difficult, man. Just like everything else, it's difficult. And there's a lot of bruises, and you look at Billy now, you're like, man, it'd be nice to be Billy, but man, you don't remember Billy from whatever 10 years ago it was when you're grinding or when you're first starting. And I started twice now. State Farm, my first 2 years, man, it was rough. It was really rough. And we're just every day. And then again, we just left in 2019, and then COVID hit 2020. I had a young kid. I had 3 young kids, under 3. And dude, it was rough, like looking back now, I'm like, everyone's like, oh, it must be nice. But like, dude, there's been some scars that will be there forever, but you need those scars to remind you to keep always growing. Cause like you said, man, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I made $6,000 my first year. So I left 6 figures and I made $6,000, right? But what's great is that like the industry every year, every day is better, And so if you can just keep your mindset right to get past it. Now you have to understand, you have to go in knowing that it's going to be hard. And one of the steps in our interview process is to talk people out of it. We're like, look, I don't know if you can handle this. This is a lot. Like, I'm not sure you're up for it. Like, we try to talk them out of it because like, if you can get through it and you have the mental capacity to be like, okay, I know it's going to be hard. Things are supposed to be hard that are worth it. And so if I can get through it, then, and I think that's why you need to give them little milestones to hit, because that's like, I want you only focused on these 4 KPIs, and I want you focused on doing this criteria. And when you do that, things get better for you. And I want you to just focus on looking at the next 6 months,
Yeah. Yep. You can't run a marathon, man, thinking about 26 miles. You just get to the next mile, man. You just got to go one at a time, chunk it up a little bit. So, man, I want to ask you a couple more questions, and then we're done. Billy, man, thank you for your time.
Sure.
I guess What is the definition of greatness to Billy?
So, I think it's time wealth. Like that to me is greatness, right? Like, I think when you start out in the business, you're trying to, achieve financially, you're trying to get yourself into a safe harbor position. But like, if you can get yourself into where your time, you can control it. That to me is greatness. Like if I look at an entrepreneur that has control of their time and can create experiences and can do what you're about to do, like create the right environment around you. To me, that is greatness. And greatness is understanding that you can claw and climb your way to it over time, that it's not a quick thing that you're going to get to, but you know what your North Star is and you're inching closer to it every single day.
Ooh, I love that. So this Insurance Producers Podcast, this is always our last question is, win the day. To me, man, I chunk everything. I don't care about the next 6 months. I'm a daily guy. Like today I got to win. And if I have a bad day, we're always going to have a bad day. It's okay. You're going to have 2 bad days. That's not okay, but it's okay. Cannot have 3 days. I cannot fail 3 days. That's kind of my life motto is have a bad day. Okay. Have 2 bad days. All right. Whatever. 3 bad days, man. You got to get it. There's something wrong. So I'm a daily kind of guy. And for me, winning the day is extremely important. And I know you're one of those guys as well, because man, time is crucial, time is crucial. And you don't know how many days you have in this world. So the impact that you can make. So what is 1 or 2 things maybe on the personal side or the professional side that you must do on a daily basis for you to consider your day one? It could be as little as a workout, giving your wife a kiss, whatever that is. What would that be for Billy?
Yeah, great question. For me, it's I do a walk every morning, and it's a 60-minute walk, and I am exercising myself. I'm getting out in nature. I'm walking my dog. And on the way out, I'm listening to something inspirational. So I'm probably going to listen to some of your podcasts on the way out. And then on the way back, 30 minutes back is complete silence. Yep. And it's about thinking about what the most important priority thing that I have to do for that day. And I showed you kind of the thing that I use. So I come back to my office, I shower, and then I come back and work on that number 1 priority thing. And if I was new in the business, I would do that. I would try to work on my business for 1 hour every day to try to, again, accomplish some of those systems and processes and moving your agency forward. So for me, it's that one thing that if I feel like the day is won, if I get that. So I've exercised, I've won my day. And the other thing that I do, I use that same card and I measure my day at the end of the day. And I say, was this a good day or a bad day and why? Because I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. I'm not going to remember. And what I found, which was very inspirational for me, is when I had a good day, I started documenting what I really enjoyed and liked. When I had a bad day, I did the same thing. And I stopped having as many bad days when I realized like some of the things that set me off are like technology not working and passwords. I'm like, I'm outsourcing that. Like I'm not going to get myself in that because I know it sets me in a very bad mood, right? So you start learning how do you put what happens on a great day and do more of that and block your schedule and do more of what makes it a great day and less of the things that frustrate you. And I find that if I didn't document it every day, I wasn't making the progress that I wanted.
Dude, I love that. I really do. That's awesome. So every podcast for me, I bring on people, man, that I learn from, and I learn from everybody, especially from you. 2 things I'm implementing from this podcast. I'm buying a notepad with the holder so I could put my top 3 things, because I read it on my notepad and then I don't see it. I put my note back away. So and then I'm going to do a secret shop with my team, man. So those are the 2 things I'm taking from your podcast, man. And I encourage people to take 1 or 2 things, man. You don't want to take 5, 10, 20 because you just won't implement it. Take 1 or 2 and you'll be able to implement it. Billy, man, that was amazing. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you. You have anything else you want to share? If not, man, you can call it good.
No, man, it's my pleasure to spend some time with you and just really just kind of connecting with you and really trying to help add value to your audience. I really enjoyed the time we spent together, and I look forward to doing it more.
All right. Thanks, Billy. Everybody, have a good day. We'll talk to you next time.